If you've ever tried to buy real estate, you have come up with all sorts of ideas on how to finance that real estate and actually how to get the deal done and how to get the money. Today I will look at some of those ideas, but mainly I want to focus on promissory notes, deeds of trust, and private or owner financing. Seller financing is what they call it today, and give you some of these ideas that will probably help structure the next deal. Now, one very important thing that I think we all overlook because we're just not used to thinking about it, and that is that we can be the lender, that the investor can be the lender, the buyer can be the lender, the seller can be the lender. I think a lot of people have equity in other properties or their own property that they're currently trying to sell, that they can create a promissory note and they can do that safely, and they can use that promissory note to go out and buy other properties. So let's just look at notes for a minute. If you look at the dollar bill, you'll see that the dollar bill has right on the face of the bill, "This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private." And we don't think about that our dollar bill is actually a promissory note or a promise to pay. Now, this was introduced to me by my friend Blake Allen, and we all knew it. It's been around all of our lives, but we never thought about it that much. But that note and all notes are a promise to pay. And so when you think about it like that, it just opens your mind up to the possibilities of being able to use promissory notes and deeds of trust in such a way that you can buy, sell, trade properties and increase your portfolio. Now, with a dollar bill, you can sell it, you can buy it, you can trade it, you can rent it, you can split it, you can get change back, you can balance what we call the equities, because it's so liquid and easily movable that you can do these things. With a promissory note, it's a little more difficult, even though that it's liquid. You can move it, you can sell it, you can trade it, you can create partials, you can sell off 5 years worth of payments. You can do all of those things. It's just a little more difficult because it's not quite as liquid. So let's just see how we do that. And remember that the note, the dollar bill, is backed by the strength of the U.S. Treasury. Well, the promissory note is also secured, and it's secured by what we call a mortgage or a deed of trust, and that depends on what state you're in. So let's look at the promissory note. You can see right up in the left-hand corner on number 10 there, it gives you the dollar amount, it gives you the date. It says, "For value received, the undersigned borrower promises to pay the note holder, or whoever owns the note, the principal sum of, with an interest rate on the unpaid principal balance," and it gives the date, the start date of the note, and the end date. And so it also gives certain penalties that are applied if you do not pay when you promise to pay. So it can be whatever the parties agree on. I've seen promissory notes all the way from 0 interest to 15% interest. I've seen the term be from 6 months to a year to 30 to 40 years. So notes are all over the board, and you can do anything that the two parties can agree on. But this promise to pay, what we're looking at today, you can buy it and sell it and pledge it and trade it and use it to buy property, or you could just hold it for the income. I mean, where else could you make 5 or 6% or 9 or 10% on your money except for this promise to pay? And so it's really a good investment. And if it's done correctly and the note is well secured and the seller or the buyer is well secured, then the face value of the note will not be discounted very much, if any at all, when you try to buy or when you try to sell the note, should you ever want to sell it. But just remember that the note is the debt. And the non-payment has major penalties also. So if you're creating a note, just be sure that you have the ability to repay that note or that debt, because debt is pretty inflexible and debt demands payment. And so it's just like anything else. Investors have decided to invest in the note, to buy the note or trade the note, and with that comes the demand that the note be paid and the note be paid on time. So there can be some major consequences to non-payment of the note, and you could even lose your investment. Now, most lenders and note holders want the ability to enforce the terms of the note, and that's made easier by the attachment of a deed of trust or a mortgage that attaches to the property. The deed of trust is recorded at the courthouse, and if there is no payment on the note or the note holder decides to foreclose, then the public trustee, in the case of a deed of trust state, would execute a foreclosure order, and the property could be sold on the courthouse steps. And also, a note is a promise to pay, and it's collectible even if you don't have the securities, just harder to collect. Even if there is no deed of trust, the note can be collected upon by going to court and suing the payer of the note. And so when the payer of the note doesn't pay, if you go to court, most likely you will get a judgment, and that judgment, interestingly enough, can be bought and sold and traded also. So there's a lot of flexibility in a note. Now, what about risk? How do you measure risk? You always hear about notes that are being sold and traded and purchased, and you talk about discounts and risk. There is a lot of risk to a note, and so the lender wants to be sure that when they invest that money, that risk is minimized. Look at it this way. If you've got a 1-year note, you know you're going to get your money back in a year plus your interest, then the note is probably pretty secure. But a 5-year note goes out there a little longer, and you want to know more about the risk of not getting paid. A 15 to 20 or 30-year note, it carries more risk. And you always wonder as a lender if you're going to get the payments every month, if the property will still be there, if the loan to value will still be there. And so you try to discount the note, if you're purchasing the note, to a level that compensates you for that risk. In the case of a property that's held for a note on it for 5 years, let's say you're 3 years into the note and the borrower quits paying, then the risk is you have to foreclose on that property. You have to take it back. You may have to repair it. You may have to spend more money than the property is worth trying to repair it. You have to clean up the liens and the mechanics liens and anything that's been left that would reduce the value of that property. So that's why lenders evaluate risk very cautiously, and they would want to be compensated for that risk. So what are some of those risks? Well, it's the loan to value. The lenders probably very seldom ever go into a property. Private lenders never go into a property more than 60 or 75%. And so the loan to value is very important, especially to private lenders. If your loan is guaranteed by the FHA, the VA, or CHFA, then you can go all the way up to 100% or 97% loan to value. But also, property location is very important. The property location and the quality of the property and the condition of the property. Borrower credit is very important. The ability of the borrower to repay the loan. Are there any taxes outstanding, any liens or encumbrances or HOA fees that have not been paid? And then you want to know what the term is. How long does this loan go? What is the interest rate? What's the face rate of the note? If I had to sell the note, could I sell the note? And what position is the note in? Is the note in first, second, or third position? So all of these things come into play when you're trying to buy, sell, or trade a note. So what is your position? What is the position of some of the notes that you have seen? Is it first, second, third, fourth, fifth? If your note is guaranteed by one of the FHA, VA, or CHFA, I think you're in a pretty safe position. You'll get your money back, and the FHA and the VA and CHFA will make sure that the lender is made whole. Not so much in a private, being a private lender. If you loan money and you have a note and a deed of trust, you may or you may not get your money back. And that's why the risk is higher and therefore the discount is more. Now let's say that you are going to loan somebody some money, and let's say that there's $100,000 on the property that's in first position, a $50,000 second, and this person wants to borrow $20,000. That $20,000 could be at a great risk because you're in third position. In other words, if the first or the second fails for any reason, you have to have the ability and the financial strength to be able to come in and clean up the mess that's left by the first and second position being foreclosed on. And so that could get quite costly. So to save your $20,000, you would have to spend at least $150,000 to be able to take care of the liens that are in front of you. And that's why lenders hardly ever go in any place besides first position. And so it's understandable that second, third, and fourth position notes are less valuable. So the big question is, if you want to sell your note, what position is this note in? How many liens are against the property? What are the HOA fees? What is the borrower like? What is the property like? What is your position in this note? It matters. And it matters a lot because your investment is at risk. So be careful when you're buying, selling, and trading notes. There's a whole lot more to it than just saying, oh, I will give you this much for your note. There's a lot of due diligence to be performed. Now, if you would like to sell your note, or you have a note that you would like to use to buy other property, to trade, or to split, or to get some cash off of, then give me a call. My contact information is on the screen.